And now I want to take a moment. I want to welcome our final guest, Eddie Ghabour. Eddie is an income specialist. He's co-owner of Key Advisor Group in Delaware, and he's also the Amazon best-selling author of the book, Common Sense Bull. Eddie, thanks so much for being back with us on The Income Generation.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So Eddie, the dreaded I word is back, inflation, and it's going crazy. So are your clients concerned about that inflationary issue, and are you concerned about their retirement nest eggs due to inflation?
You know, I think everyone should really be concerned with inflation because frankly, we haven't seen an acceleration on a rate of change perspective on inflation this high in 40 years. Now, fortunately, as I shared with you last time I was on your show, we were positioned for it because we didn't agree with the Fed saying that we were not going to have inflation or 2% inflation. So we did go overweight energy plays and we're positioned for inflation. So rates of return have been fantastic this year because of that rotation. But overall, from a macroeconomic standpoint, the inflationary data is probably what's going to cause this market to really pause and cool off in the third quarter because the Fed's going to finally have to admit that they're wrong again. This is not transitory, and they're going to have to pivot much sooner than what they're leading the market to believe. So we've been able to take advantage of it, fortunately. But our clients, I would say they're more worried about their children than they are themselves because fortunately, they're doing just fine financially.
Well, if the Fed makes the wrong mistake and changes policy midstream, they could crush the economy and put us into recession and cause the markets to fall. But I don't think they care about inflation, Eddie, because they're so disconnected from reality with all of this crazy stimulus they've done. So when does the Fed taper is the question. What do you think about that?
So I think they're going to start to position the market to prepare for tapering, probably in the July meeting at the end of July. They're going to truly start tightening, in my opinion, until the first half of next year. Because look, they can ignore it, but ultimately, this is a ticking time bomb. And if they don't tighten sooner than later, then you're going to have hyperinflation, which could be just as detrimental or more detrimental to the economy than tightening too soon. So they're going to let it run hot as they already have. But the reality is this is not transitory. Just look at labor costs. So they're going to tighten next year. Not in 2023 like they've led us to believe.
So Eddie, you and Greg McBride are on the same side of the equation, so it's 2 against 1. I think it's transitory. You and Greg disagree. So, all right, if it's going to be longer term then, and you've been fortunate because the stock market's been hot, you've been able to give clients an inflation hedge in the stock market, but what happens to their inflation hedge when they go in this universe of bonds and bond-like instruments? What happens? Because you can create a little bit of an inflation hedge in bonds and bond-like instruments also if you want to pull them out of the market. So how do you do that?
So here's the thing. I think I want to define transitory as well, too, because, you know, we're going to hit peak inflation probably June. At the end of this month, we're going to hit peak inflation. And then we're going to be in a decelerating rate of inflation, but it's still going to probably be in the 3-4 range. So they may refer to that as transitory, but it's still higher than what we've seen in a long time. So I think for bond investors, what will happen is the 10-year will probably top out, and that'll be good for fixed income investors. And so we're going to start becoming we're going to become more defensive in July and August to prepare ourselves for this new cycle, economic cycle that we will be in. So preferreds pay nice dividends. Some of the energy stocks pay nice dividends, and then the fixed income does. But your more cyclical stocks that have worked really well this year that we're overweight in, we will not have much exposure at all because those will be the ones that get hammered when this next economic cycle kicks in, because the Fed is always reactionary.
Yeah. And as you know, in the world of bonds and bond-like instruments, if you actively manage those, you can kind of sort of engineer an inflation hedge because sometimes, you know, 2 bonds of a certain type, one zigs while the other zags. And if you're willing to actively manage it and swap out of one and swap into the other, you can actually engineer a little bit of an inflation hedge. Is something I know that you do for your clients. So Eddie, thanks so much for being back with us here on the show. It's great to have you as usual.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.